What's going on, traders? And welcome to my stream. Today is Friday. We're gonna chat about we're gonna chat about um we're gonna chat about last week's trading. Trading has been very interesting. We're gonna review all the days. And we're gonna chat about all the days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We're kind of in the weekend. We're kind of on Friday. We had a couple movers on Monday. It was kind of quiet. um Wednesday and Thursday. It was only on Thursday. Tuesday, Wednesday, and the middle of Thursday were a little quiet. Then on Thursday and on Friday we actually had some momentum. Anyway, so let's discuss some stocks and then see what moved. Trying to get you trying to review here. Then we're gonna, talk about the recap. So talking about PWM, pretty simple here. PWM had first green day bounce right about here, 1464. We moved up to 19. So that ended up being a 33% winner. Pretty nice. Buying yesterday's breakout of 1469, and went up 33%. So that's important to note. It's actually this one was we had the first one, the first green day bounce that was 120% bounce. Then the second one that was like 60% bounce. This was 33% bounce, and the fourth first green day bounce didn't work out so well. So of this week, so like I say in many of my videos, the first strategy of first green day bounce usually works the best, and then it just trickles down. So we're gonna move on to Tuesday. We had PRFX that actually died on Friday. It kind of bounced that day, but then it died. I traded HCTI on Monday, I believe. This is HCTI. So HCTI was after PRFX, I believe. No, it was like the second mover that had a first green day bounce. So the first one gave 120%. I think it was PRFX. PRFX went from like 8 to 17, and after PRFX we had the next one that I did bounce was HCTI. Pretty nice range from about 4 to about 675. So that gave about, there's plenty of moves. So I bought as close as I could have gotten from 425, and I sold it into the push. I didn't touch it over here, which I should have, and then the stock ended up selling off. That's an example of first green day bounce. That's a first green day bounce, and that's a first green day bounce. So it's pretty interesting. On Monday, it was a first green day bounce, euphoria, and then moving on to Tuesday. Tuesday was an interesting day because we had PIRS, and this ticker just popped out of the blue, and it was a humongous float. I believe it was 100 some million. If I were gonna look at, so remembering, guys, that the market has you chasing stocks, and every time you buy a stock, you have to look at the float. So we're gonna go on Finviz. We're gonna look at the float of PIRS, and you guys will see the float is 67 million. That's a humongous float. So when you see that, and you have a stock going up from 18 up to 38, that's like 120% move. So, like I say, the stock, whatever the news is going to be very hard for it to hold its gain. So I bought it and I sold it, and that was that. You would expect it to bounce off VWAP and keep going, but remember, guys, this stock, the float is just too big for it to hold its gain. And so enough, we had a 60 million in volume that day. Remember, for a stock to move, um, 100%, you need the whole entire float in a daily volume. So, daily volume is 60 million. So for a stock to hold, 100%, it needs to have everybody that bought, 60 million, which was the entire float, hold their shares. For a stock to go up 100%, you have to have 100% buyers of the float. And, like you can see so here that institutions, the institutions are just going to load up on you. They're just going to make it go to the moon and then just going to sell into you and then they dump it. Whatever the news is. So remember, guys, if it's a float that's really big, like 70%, 70 million, 80 million, 90 million, you see going up 100% on the day, remember that whatever the news is unlikely going to hold because the float is so big. And it even had like 55% institutions. So, these institutions, they're not looking to hold forever. They're probably going to lock in their gains and move on. So that was PIRS. Jim made a quick trade and moved on. Moving on to the next ticker. And the next ticker is ICAD. ICAD, I saw this in the morning and I looked at the chat. I looked at the stock. The stock had a textbook 289 buy over there, I believe. And we pretty much hit 397. We had a midday break over here of 267. So I didn't really trade midday on this day. This day was, let me see if we can, this day was on Thursday or Tuesday, was it? Because we didn't have that many movers. Let me just move that out of the way. So, coming in the middle of the day, buying that 289 break, we hit $3. That's not bad. It's a pretty nice break. Moving on to the next ticker. I didn't really trade that one, but that's a nice opportunity. Then we moving on to, I don't think I traded that much on Monday. On Tuesday, it was just very quiet. Those were the opportunities on Tuesday. We had PIR, and the rest of them we had like 30-40% gappers that sold off. And I don't remember the ticker that sold off, but we had a couple tickers that were up 30-40% on the day, and they just straight down. And that was, when I saw that, I'm like, should I really push it today? So I ended up not pushing it that day. And then ECAD moved in the middle of the day. 289, 24, very nicely. Moving on to the next ticker. I think this was on the 19 SMX. Like I say, another high float ticker. If we were going to put SMX here. SMX was 31 million in float. So this is, even though it's a low priced, SMX did have news. I don't remember what the news was, but it wasn't. It's a very tight. You can see so on the daily. The last time we pushed 30 million, the stock barely moved. So when I looked at it, I'm like, if it pushes 3 times the volume, it's just gonna move 3 times as much. So in this situation, move from 14 to 20, let's call it 30%. So if we move, if we put in 2 or 3 times the volume, it's gonna move 13 to 25. So, and that's exactly what it did, 13 to 25. And it was just not. By the time I saw it over here, I was like, it's a very thickly traded stock. It's a no range stock. Stock needs to have range for you to trade it, and the stock doesn't have range. So I didn't really trade it at all. I just skipped it. Moving on, Carvana. Carvana is the only actually ticker that actually was worth trading. Carvana had a 52-week resistance line of 58.05, and that 58.05 would have been a nice short, and you could pretty much combine that Carvana. You can combine that with a red on the day. As you can see, so here the red on the day line was around 56, and you can short. I actually made a couple of screenshots of that 58 being a 52-week resistance, and you could short that. And you could also, you could have, I watched it go up, and then I came in the next day, and I thought about shorting it. That was probably my number one idea, to short this stock, risking off this 58. If you were perfect, you could risk off this 58 line, or you could risk off the 56 line, which is also coincided with yesterday's close. You can see that yesterday's close was 56. So technically, if you would have shorted when it broke 56, or when we pushed into 56 up to 58, that would have been a nice short, and then hold it all day, because it pretty much really did give around 20% of the downside to short Carvana. And I'm sure the big boys really did pound on this one, because if I were a big boy and I had 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 shares, this would be the ticker. I would be in as a short, and this is a big boy short. It's not one of those low floats. You just buy 5,000 shares. I mean, it's a $50, $60 stock where you can put 10,000 shares and it's not gonna bulge. So that's a lot of money, and it's not gonna you can make a lot of money shorting Carvana, medium float, or I don't know, really high float. So moving on to the next ticker, more of a low floats. Actually, like I said before, the first green day bounce stopped working. We had PRFX that bounced 120%. Then we had the next mover, which was ACTI that bounced 60%, and then we had PWM that bounced like 30%. So in this situation, we had this first green day bounce from $3 up to about 340. So this stock, as you can see, so that we didn't bounce more than 20%. So that's what I'm trying to get you guys to see, that I looked at it, I came in, I saw this downtrend break right about there. I bought and I sold for 10-cent loss, and that was that. I didn't really, I saw it, I saw it to buy potentially at 3 if I would have been perfect at 7, but I wasn't even awake at 7, and I could have bought that dip there at around 310 too, and sold it at 320. It wasn't that much meat on this move, but soon enough, it was very nasty, because we sold off and the volume didn't come in. This is more of a low float with no volume and low range. And you can see there's a big difference between SXTP and Carvana. The next ticker is PBLA, I believe. PBLA, we just, I tried to go long. I think it was on, this was on the 19th. So this was on Wednesday, PBLA. You had a textbook breakout of 250 that I didn't buy. And then we had a daily resistance of 292. It was very choppy. I went in eventually at 262. And immediately after we made a new high over 280, we came right back down. So it was very choppy, whoever moved this. And it's really provided no range. So it was not that of an exciting trade. I made 10 cents on it and left. That was that. 719. We had a couple of other movers that popped up. BDRX on Wednesday. So you can see now that a lot of these tickers ended up not going on Wednesday or Tuesday. So we had BDRX. We had a really nice high of the day break of 625. We hit that daily resistance of 7, and we failed. So, you can see the consistency here, that a lot of these tickers were just not we're not participating. And when they're not participating, you need to, at one point, I think I was mentioning to the chat that, when you don't have 30% movers, more than 30% gainers, you just, don't trade. You just pretty much size to 1/5 size, and there we go. So like I said before in my Discord room, when you see when gainers aren't over 30-40%, I already know it's not going to be a home run trade. So I run out quickly. It always ends bad when gainers are 30 to 40% because I try to push more size and force things, and then I lose money. So you have to understand that um, if you push size during times of 30-40% gainers, like I post every single day, when you see this gap scan, you're probably going to lose money because stocks have no range. You need range for traders to get excited to buy more stock, and and I didn't really force things, and I didn't really lose, and I didn't really gain either. But there weren't really that many opportunity to begin with. So Carvana is probably the only one that I should have shorted with size, around 58 or 56, I believe, and the other ones are just not really. ACTI I did buy, and the other ones were just not that excited. Moving on to, I believe it was Thursday. Thursday we started getting a nice range here. GRR popped up. This is a nice first green day bounce pattern. You can see, so here we popped up from 254, which is, very nicely if you catch it on the scanner. Broke yesterday's high of 254 by the yellow line and had a nice range up to 328. So that is technically a 20% gain. You can see, so red day, 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 and we finally broke yesterday's high of 254. So this is a very good setup for a first green day bounce. And I didn't really trade this one because I was like, I showed up Monday, didn't work. I showed up Tuesday, didn't work. I showed up Wednesday, didn't work. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll just not trade. But this ticker showed up in the morning, and then we had nice range here. The next ticker is Tattoo. Nice range this morning if you caught it off the scanner, but still there was not enough range for me to trade this ticker. I mean, 13 to 14 just only gave like 10%. But if you caught it, even if you caught it on the scanner, it's still tough. You still need to get in. So, 12 to 15, that's not enough for me to get in. But GRI came through, and then it sold off. Then you had Carvana here, like I say. As you can see, so this is a first red day short pattern. You can see, so over here that it closed 55.79. You can base your risk or 55.79. So we pushed to 55.79. We had immediate slam down to 51. So you can push 10%, 20% if you hold it all day. That was actually the only one that I did miss because you can see, so here that yesterday's close 55.79, and we pushed there, and then we died. Next ticker is GFI. I actually did watch this GFI. We only started really getting range on Thursday. So GFI kind of popped up over here, and actually the only time to short it was, you have this trend line, and then we have this parabolic price action, and then this broke down. I thought about shorting it 750 because we had a humongous move down to 6. So technically, if I took it short, into this parabolic, I would have been all right because it pretty much, it was a 5 milli float. So we rotated the float, considering the daily volume was 65 million. So we rotated the float about 13 times. So you rotate the float up, it finally breaks down, we rotate the float down, and then we close. So that is, we rotate up, we go vertical, it gets we rotate it down, and then you cover whatever this was. Soon enough, actually GFI broke yesterday's high, so that would have been a day 2 continuation play to take that long on Friday. So we had a couple of other movers. I think it was on Wednesday. I think this was so this was the move for Thursday, I believe. Thursday. Now we're moving into Friday. Friday's today. So Friday, actually, it's the same crap all over again. PSQH, we popped up from 15 to 36. So soon enough, we had our first red day short. Actually, you can see 30s here as the potential short. You can see 30s very clearly. Actually, I should have taken this one short to tell you the truth today. It's called first red day short pattern. You can see you can base your risk off 29.86. So we popped up over 29.36 in the pre-market. We pretty much have a double top at 34. We come back down, we reject, and then we push again, we reject, and then we die off. So this is another first red day short idea that I could have taken part of from 29 down to 22. I believe it gave about 10, 20. It gave about 29 to 22. That's $7. So that's about a 22% gain if you were perfect. So that's a really nice short if you took this short today, which is Friday. And we had some other opportunities. G5 day 2 continuation. You can see that yesterday's high was 802. So from 802 down to up to 990. It gave about $2 per share, which gave 20% just buying day 2 continuation. Even though it was a bit choppy here because you're buying it at 8, it goes up to 850, and then we have a slam down back to VWAP. So I think this ticker was a little bit harder to hold if I were buying day 2 continuation. And we did back down. We go back up. So day 2 continuation G5. Just because I short yesterday and cover does not mean I'll hold the short. You can just come in the next day and buy day 2 continuation. That happened around 10 o'clock. So the range is coming back into the stock market. You can see G5 from 4 to 10. You can see PSQH from 32 to 22. And you can see like DWAC here. DWAC popped up from like 17 up to 30, and then pretty much died off. DWAC, and that's a huge move for this company with Trump, and that is I think that's about it. Really nice range. Sadly, there was very little range in the overall market. There's very little range in the overall market on Tuesday, Wednesday, and beginning of Thursday, and I was like, well, I'm just gonna wait for them to move. And I was like, and I gathered, and I started doing other things because I'm like, well, I'm not just gonna hang around in the 20% gappers or 30% gappers, and soon enough they eventually moved on late Thursday and Friday. And I don't know. That's been the cycle of it. And that's about it. Those are the movers. And takes time to get accustomed. You just gotta have to go through them. And that's about it. Those are the movers for the week. Closing out the week. And yeah, we had a lot of movers in late Thursday and Friday. A couple of movers then. So just try not to push it when the market is just had a slow start on Tuesday and Wednesday, and push it a little bit more when we do have this humongous range happening in these movers, like G5, PSQH, and DUAC. Other than that, you guys have a great weekend, and see you all in my next video. Peace out.